For this week, I'm gonna talk about how we can manage note-taking. In other words, we will be discussing about how we can distinguish between two different methods of note-taking. One is passive note-taking, one is active note-taking, and we will be providing you guys with some small tips regarding how we can more effectively manage our notes when we listen to lectures or when we are reading a journal article or book chapter. To illustrate my points, I will also be using some of the examples, the notes that I took as an undergraduate student years ago, to show how we can take notes more effectively and how we can summarize information in a proper way. From my perspective, the essence of effective note-taking is that it allows us to summarize key information, to distinguish between different ideas, and to make connections between different opinions and arguments. In other words, good note-taking allows you to review what you have read and what you have studied before, whereas bad note-taking does not serve this effect. For undergraduate students, probably it's a good idea to practice and to develop your own ways of taking notes, because note-taking is a very personalized thing. You shouldn't always be thinking about how to make your notes perfect. The only important thing is that you understand your own notes and it helps you to pass exams and learn knowledge. In other words, you are only taking notes for yourself, for your own efficiency and effectiveness. You are not taking notes for anyone else. We talked about the problem of plagiarism weeks ago, and this week, I'm just gonna emphasize it again. When you are taking notes, you should clearly indicate which are your own original ideas and which are the ones that you are learning and reading from other authors, scholars, and professors. And in more detail, you should also indicate which are the direct quotations and which are the paraphrases that you paraphrased from the opinions and ideas from other people. And also, sometimes the libraries, they offer photocopy machines. So maybe you are able to copy some pages from some books you are reading. In that case, you should remember to include the page numbers when you are photocopying, so that in later times, when you are actually writing your own essay or paper, you can refer to the page numbers, and then you can have a complete list of references with enough information. When you are taking notes, when you are doing some reading, or when you are listening to some lectures for an essay, for a paper, or even your graduation thesis, you should always remember to make your notes clear so that in the future you can refer back to them, and then you can have a full list of references and you can easily quote, easily cite, and do them with enough information. So basically, there are probably two types of note-taking. So one type is called passive note-taking, and one type is called active note-taking. For passive note-takers, what they do is that they try to put down everything that they are hearing from a lecture or from reading a book. In that case, it is very hard for them to distinguish what is important and what is not. And it would be hard for them to review for exams based on those notes, because time is limited and there is no time for them to go through everything over again. For the active note takers, they only take down notes that they consider as very important. Also, they try to summarize different opinions, ideas they've read and heard in their own words, so they can easily understand and they can easily refer back to them when they prepare for exams or when they are writing a term paper. So when you are taking notes, whether using your laptop, your iPad, or your paper notebook, what you need to do is that you should leave enough spaces between ideas and arguments. So after the lecture, when you go home, maybe you could add some details or examples in those spaces. It is also a good idea to draw some kind of illustrations or diagrams or charts so that you can easily understand the connections or logical interactions between opinions and ideas. So I basically summarized two general ways of taking notes in class. One way we call it linear notes, which includes titles, subtitles, and different sections. So you just take notes from the top to the bottom. This is very efficient if you're dealing with a large number of words or a load of information. You can highlight important information and use different colors to represent different types of information you are receiving in class, so that your linear notes will look more easily understandable. So the other way of taking notes, we call it spidergram or mind map. So this way of taking notes could be very efficient or effective if you're dealing with different relationships between various concepts, and it visually helps you to remember those concepts and their relationships in a short time. Another good point about using the spidergram is that it shows the different importances or the statuses of the concepts you are learning from a class. Especially in economics, you study different models and you study different definitions, and how they are related to each other is visually represented if you are using a spidergram. Based on my own personal experience, if you are taking a class which includes a lot of information, it might be a good idea for you to download and print out the handouts or lecture slides if the instructor or the professor uploads them to the course system before each class. So in class, you are able to take down notes about specific details or examples next to the ones the professor has already uploaded. In the case, if you are taking a class online, especially through Zoom or through an on-demand video lecture, because your computer screen is occupied by them, you don't really have space to take notes using your own computer. In that case, probably you should use a different iPad. And also, maybe it is a good idea for you to have your handouts or presentation slides already printed out in your hands so that you can easily take notes and looking at the computer screen at the same time. If you're using an iPad, you can search up some of the applications to take notes. For example, GoodNotes and Notability. And if you're using a laptop, I strongly recommend you to use Microsoft OneNote, as you can organize or arrange the notes of different lectures and different courses into different sections in Microsoft OneNote. And if you have a lot of papers to read and to do literature review, then a good way of taking notes is to use Adobe Acrobat or Marginal PDF Expert. So by using those different applications, you can easily highlight the keywords in the papers and write something beside the articles. So another probably efficient way to take notes is by teamwork. So basically your classmates or friends in the same class could use Google Docs or Google Slides to take notes at the same time. And also, in order to prevent document losses, it is a good idea to share a document to a cloud environment such as Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, Apple iCloud, and so on, so that you can not only access the documents from different devices, but also you can keep them even if you lose one of the devices.